Welcome back to the Lopes Goes Last podcast channel. Dan Lindsay has joined me once again here this week. It's been a little while since we've done wrestling content. It's a whole lot of sports going on out there. NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, baseball's in full swing, football, with the NFL draft and the offseason training camp and everything going on. There's just a lot going on right now in terms of sports. So we wanted to take some time today, take a little bit of a break from that, and reset on WWE, wrestling, whatever terminology you want to use. Obviously, today, there's not necessarily something going on. Obviously, you got King of the Ring and King and Queen of the Ring, excuse me. I'm so used to calling it King of the Ring. Right. It's been like that for forever. King and Queen of the Ring going on in a couple of weeks now, I believe.
2 weeks from Saturday.
Perfect. 2 weeks from Saturday. So, I know we got that going on, but honestly, we just don't have enough storylines to kind of book a full pay-per-view around that like we've done in the past. So instead, what Dan actually had a brilliant idea of kind of doing just 5 topics that we're going to talk about today, breaking them down. We're going to talk about them and just have some fun. So hopefully you guys enjoy it as much as we're going to enjoy this. Like and subscribe if you have not already. If this is your first time here, welcome. We talk about a whole lot of stuff here. Wrestling, NFL, MLB, NBA. We talk about all different kinds of stuff. So if you are just a sports nerd like the two of us, or if you're a wrestling nerd like the two of us, you're going to love it here. We have great conversations and we have a lot of fun. And so Dan has 5 questions that he's going to take us through here. We're both going to talk about it. And I'm super excited. This is something different that we've never done before, so I'm excited.
Yeah, no, I mean, we've had a lot of fun doing these fantasy booking things. Crazy ideas, not very many of them hit. You had more hit than I did, but it was still a lot of fun. So I figured, kind of take some current storylines, see where they're going. Obviously the King and Queen of the Ring tournaments have gotten pretty far in already. I mean, we'll talk about that off the top here. Those gotten in, but so if you want to kind of give me your mindset of where that was before the tournament started, and then kind of make your picks of what's happened now. That's fine. I have a feeling I know one big thing you'll be talking about today, and so I'll definitely cede some time there for you there.
There you go.
Understandably. I'm very you turned me on to Ilya and our conversations on and off podcasts, and when he got called up, it was, now what do we get? And it's gonna be interesting to see what happens. This past Monday's result I don't think was what a lot of people expected. But so I'm definitely curious there. But I want to start with King of the Ring. So currently we have on the Raw side, we just have Jey Uso left and Gunther left. So what were you thinking before the King of the Ring tournament started? Who did you peg initially before the tournament even started? Like, this is probably the guy that's going to win the whole.
Yeah, I think Gunther was probably, if I had to pick one guy of like, you got to bet your house, you got to bet everything on, Gunther would have been the pick. And it seems like that's the direction they're going. Obviously, Jey Uso guy. No offense, Jay, but I just think that the stories with Gunther right now, they're trying to build him into be a main event player, as they should. But obviously, Ilya Dragunov, right? You mentioned it a couple seconds ago. I honestly wasn't the biggest fan of putting Ilya in the tournament because I didn't think he'd win the tournament. And when you've got, obviously there are certain guys that can get called up and can lose pretty quickly, and that's okay. That doesn't bother me. Like, Carmelo Hayes has lost a few matches, as entertaining as he is. His character is presented in a way that it's okay if he loses. Dragon Lee, another guy, can lose some matches. That's fine. You don't have to have every NXT superstar go undefeated for 6 months or else they're not credible. That's not feasible.
And I trust what Triple H, and sorry to interrupt you, but I trust what Triple H is doing with the NXT guys, because those are his guys that he's now calling up on his stories. Where if Vince was still in charge of his product, I would be worried if some of these guys are getting called up and losing. Yep. Well, there's another NXT guy getting buried, but now I feel it's like you're saying, it's like none of these guys have to go on an undefeated streak. Not everybody does. You can't do it with everybody because that part just loses luster. But it's like, someone like Ilya especially, it's okay that he lost because we're still going to see him. We're going to still, them a main roster crowd, for lack of a better term. Your mainstream watchers that don't maybe tune into NXT every single week. That maybe kind of know who Elias, but hasn't seen like his epic matches with Gunther, like you've shown me. It takes some time to build him. But yeah, I'll back to you on this stuff there. But I'm with you. I trust Triple H a little bit more with this. Seeing these guys not lose, or seeing these guys lose, and I'm like, okay, it'll be all right. We're still gonna see them.
Yeah, agreed. I'm definitely with you. I think it kind of PTSD for me of loving NXT for 10 years and just seeing all these guys go to waste. It's always going to be there, I think, until Vince is just long gone and out of our memory, and Triple H has been in charge for 20 years, and 20 NXT superstars have multiple championships in the last decade and stuff like that. Oh, okay, we're good. But right now I think it's still there. But yeah, that's not necessarily my main concern, especially with Ilya. I think that I think what I was most fearful for him is what we're coming to fruition, which is that he's just not the best promo. I think in NXT he got a lot better on a live mic promo, but like backstage stuff he still struggles with. I think he's a bit clunky with how he delivers things, but that's okay. I mean, unless I'm mistaken, English is not his first language, and so with anybody, it's difficult. So, I expect him to get better as time goes along with that. But anybody who watches can tell he still has his in-ring work. That will never be the problem, right? Like the storytelling in matches, the selling, the body language, the emotion, and obviously the athleticism that goes along with all that. I mean, there's people that are watching him for the first time, like, wrestling analysts that are watching him for the first time going, wow, holy crap, who is this guy? Like, he's just that darn good. So, like, that part, as long as he's given room to breathe in the ring, that part will speak for itself. I'm not worried about him winning or losing matches. But for me, I think that I was kind of hoping, and maybe I just psyched myself up because I had read the rumors that he was going to get a Gunther-like push, where he was going to go undefeated for a really long time, or do a bunch of squash matches or whatever. Right. It's hard to do a squash match when not gigantic, like Bronson Reed. Yeah, when you're not Braun Breaker or Gunther or Bronson Reed or somebody big like that. But I think it still would have fit because they did it with with now Malachi Black in AEW when he was called up at first, and he's not a giant guy either, and he was doing squash matches every. You could do it if you tell the story right. For me, I think it's just the character of Ilya Dragunov is that he can fight through any amount of pain, and so losing on television is not my favorite thing for his character based on what you're trying to tell. Now, I'm not saying losing one match is going to destroy his character. I'm not saying that at all, so don't hear that when I'm saying. But, it was a bit frustrating when I heard that he was going into the tournament. One, because I knew Gunther was going to be in King of the Ring tournament, and I was hoping that Gunther would win it. And so I was like, okay, that means either Dragunov's going to lose before he should, or he's going to lose to Gunther, and I think he wasted that match.
Right.
And so, one, I guess you didn't waste that match, which is great. You want that match to be the main event of a pay-per-view out in Europe somewhere.
Yep.
But again, that just means that Dragunov lost very quickly upon calling up, which is not my favorite thing. That doesn't mean I think oh my god, it's all over. No. But it just was not my favorite decision. I would have left him out of the tournament entirely, like they did with Braun Breaker, since you mentioned him earlier.
And he didn't like it.
He didn't like it at all, and that's the story you can tell.
Yep.
With Ilya, you could say, oh man, these young guns in NXT, you could have made it a pattern. Like, these young guys in NXT are really not excited that they were left out. Carmelo Hayes, Ilya Dragunov, Braun Breaker, like all these guys that they have to earn it. Well, now they're ticked off and they're going to go out and beat the crap out of Cedric Alexander or Apollo Crews or whoever is out there, right? Andrade, like, he's not an NXT call, but new guy on the block, right? So you could have told that story. They didn't. That's fine. I'm interested to see where Ilya Dragunov goes from here. I'd like to see a secondary title run pretty quick. Yeah, for him. I love Sami Zayn, obviously. We all love Sami Zayn on this channel. But I think the WrestleMania win was vindication enough. He doesn't have to have a super long title reign.
Right.
Obviously, you got the Chad Gable story. If you want to give it to Chad, that's fine. I would probably give it to Chad. I think he's earned it, even if it's not necessarily the way we wanted it initially. We wanted Chad to get that big babyface win. But then maybe Ilya takes it off Chad. And he outworks the workhorse, right? It kind of that thing.
Because Ilya can go for a long
he
match.
He sure can. And so it's maybe you do that. I don't know. But that's my thoughts on that. So anyway, back to your original question of who would I have originally pegged. It would have been Gunther, even if he would have had to have beaten Dragunov in the finals. Definitely now that there's no Dragunov, I think it gotta be Gunther. Look, I don't know. I know LA Knight's and LA Knight, Randy Orton, a couple other people are out there.
Let's go to the SmackDown side. We still have Carmelo Hayes. We still have LA Knight. We have Tama Tonga because we got to have Bloodline representation. We got Randy Orton over there. I mean, who do you see coming out on the SmackDown side between those four guys?
I would say it's probably Randy Orton. Just because I don't think LA Knight needs it right now. And plus, I think if LA Knight was gonna do it, I think he'd have to win. Just based on the direction of his character right now. But for me, I think Randy Orton is a good choice because what Randy said in his promo on SmackDown, which I've done everything in this business. I've won Money in the Bank. I've won the World Rumble. I've won the main event of WrestleMania. I've done everything. The only thing I haven't done is King of the Ring. And so you can tell that story of this wily vet's going to have not one last run. Not true. Plenty of years left, it seems.
And he wants to rest for at least another 4 or 5, I think.
Right. So what I mean is this is the last check on his checklist kind of thing where he can win King of the Ring. But you got Monster on the. I don't even know if Randy Orton's. You know what I'm saying? That can be a
great story that you don't have to work hard for.
So I think it's Randy. Would I be surprised if they did LA Knight? No, I wouldn't, because it seems that they just enjoy giving us 89% of LA Knight's push and then leaving the last 11% for us to throw off a cliff. But I don't know. But I would prefer Randy Orton. That'd be my pick.
For me on the SmackDown side, I have actually Carmelo Hayes.
Is he in the tournament?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's actually,
I said him earlier because I thought he was left out of the tournament. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's actually him and Randy this week.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then the other matches, LA Knight and Tonga.
You just want Carmelo Hayes to die? His chest to cave in at the end of this thing?
Well, I mean, I think it was nice. The reason I'm kind of leaning that direction, I like the Randy pick though. The reason I'm kind of leaning that direction is one who I have on the Raw side, which I'll get to in a second. And then I just, Carmelo Hayes got a match on the night of the draft with Cody Rhodes right away. Did very well. Looked very good in that match.
They did, yeah, he did
so
great.
So it's and I feel like kind of need a appeal outside of the Bloodline on SmackDown right now. So why not Carmelo Hayes? I don't think you're going to turn Randy heel anytime soon. I think that eventually happens. Just so we can get our Cody Randy storyline versus have that match between them, because we all want that match, of course. And then Randy doesn't even have to be a heel. You just want that match. Sure. I assume you do. I feel I'm with you on the Knight side. I don't feel like this really does anything to help LA Knight to win King of the Ring or even be the SmackDown representative in the finals for the tournament. So I don't have LA Knight coming over there. I think it's too early for someone like Tama Tonga. Again, we have the Bloodline representation because they should kind of be represented in most of your tournaments in some fashion or another. We're going to get to talk about them a little bit later. So that's why I went with Carmelo Hayes. And again, I needed a heel to face my Raw representative. I feel they're going to put Jay over. We got that so close between Jay and Gunther. And and the reason I'm saying this is because we're going to set up Gunther for bigger and better things. And I feel like we want Jay to be a part of main event storylines, but I think there's too many people above him for him to really capture the world heavyweight title at the moment and for a while. But I think something like this kind of like, oh, this keeps him in that picture still, or it's like, I mean, a loss to Gunther could do that too. But I think Jay. I'm going with Jay over on the Raw side, and then I have Jay winning the tournament. Um, it's I initially was like very much so Gunther. Gunther. I figured it was gonna be Gunther, Ilya in the Raw finals. When I saw those two, and I get what you're saying. Like you don't really. That's much better match. That's you say for a main event of PLE. Whether it's Clash or Bash or another one or the next Saudi match or whatever. That is a main event. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So I'm kind of glad they went with it. Didn't go that direction.
Yeah, me too.
And that's part of the reason I'm going with Jay here too. Is just because if they're putting someone like Jay over Ilya, or if they're putting someone like Ilya, using him to put Jay over, which he doesn't really need to be over, obviously. So maybe that's not the right phrase there, but I feel if Jay won that match, I feel he's going to pull something out of his hat to win next week on Raw, being the final.
All right. I mean, we'll see where that goes. I obviously don't agree, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. We'll see what happens there. I just think, I mean, if I haven't made it clear enough, I think for the same reasons that you have Jay winning the whole thing. I just think that SmackDown that is going to step into that role and for it to make sense. I just think that, Gunther being King of the Ring makes the most sense to me. It kind of immediately pushes him into the main event, which is what you're wanting at this point.
Right. He doesn't have the IC title anymore.
Yeah.
You're not gonna go back to that well with him at all.
Right.
Most likely.
And if Jay loses, he is in the exact same spot than if he's not gonna get any more popular. He's not going to get any more momentum or any less momentum. I think that he just remains unchanged and unwavering. Whereas I think if Gunther loses, you might actually to his character, especially if you tell no story with it. Like if there's no somebody cost him the match, or he got there was some backstage thing and he had to leave because Ludwig Kaiser got attacked by some random person and nobody knows who it was, and if there's no story attached to it and he just loses clean to Jay, I think that it's going to be I think it's going to actually kind of be a little harder for people to take him a little more seriously.
Yeah, I guess I could see that. I just keep thinking back to that IC match that those two had. I don't remember what. I think it was before Mania, where those two put on a great match, and it almost looked like Jay was going to win it until the very last second. So that's where I feel like your story is. It's like Jay is one more shot at redemption, overcomes Gunther. And I believe, I don't know, I couldn't quite figure this out or not too. Are they doing if you win the tournament, you get a title shot?
That's normally how they've done it. But I will also say that that's not what they did the last time.
Right.
Because I don't think Xavier Woods ever got a No, that's actually not true. He did get a title shot. I'm lying. He got a title shot against Roman. And Roman, murdered him.
Well, yeah, that was probably one of the few TV
title matches. And the reason I remember it is because I remember the segment of Roman destroying him and then taking his crown and putting it.
That's right.
So I remember that. He did get a title shot.
So that kind of works into my my bold prediction.
Oh, I love it. So I love it. We're going to be doing a bold prediction each.
At the very end, so stick around for that.
Queen of the Ring, right?
Yes, Queen of the Ring. So we're down to basically... I think I imagine we're probably going to go the same direction here. So let's start on the Raw side. If we're down to Io and Vera Valkyria on the Raw side, I don't think that's a surprise.
Yeah.
Any, what's your shot there?
I think it's going to be Io. I love Lyra. And, part of me also hopes that she makes it to the final. Just because, again, it's another one of those really fun NXT characters. But I think she's got a story enough right now with Becky Lynch to kind of tell a story where Damage Control gets involved and Liv Morgan. There's just a lot of things that are going to work against her. So I'd be okay if she loses. But But first of all, I know we've been listening to her entrance music for about a year. Freaking love her entrance. It is so good. That's just my opinion. You can say what you want. I just love it every time her music is epic. But yeah, I think it's going to be Io. She's got a little bit too many allies and kind of things working against Lyra to not win. So I would say Io on the Raw side for sure. What are you kind of thinking the same thing?
I'm thinking the same. Kind of even the same thing that we're. And as it's nice to see the NXTers in, but I don't feel like it's. I'm glad that they're represented and glad they're there, but I don't think it's quite that time to put them into that. And over on the so we both have Io there on the Raw side. SmackDown side, we're down to 4. There we have this week it's Jade Cargill versus Nia, and Stratton versus Bianca. I think those would be 4 excellent matches that literally could be the best matches of the whole tournament. Yeah. In a sense, because it's like I feel you can look at 3 of the 4 of those and say, yeah, it's your Queen of the Ring there.
Sure, you could absolutely.
I don't think anybody would be disappointed if it's Jade or Tiffany or Bianca. Who do you have coming over on this?
So I'm kind of, and I might be just overthinking it, right? Because I think the easy kind of way to go is just the new thing on the block, and she's going to go right to the main event. But I think there's a little bit too much story to tell with Bianca Belair and with some other players right now to just kind of shoehorn her into the main event right now when I think other people could be there right now and she doesn't need it. Plus, she's not the most polished in the ring still. We saw it in that match with Damage Control. Yep. I think there was a lot of miscommunication, especially at like one particular match where her and Kairi Sane it didn't seem like they were on the same page at all. So it's one of those things where you really kind of have to say, is she ready for the main event? I think look wise, character wise, she probably is, but in ring wise, maybe you can save her. If you can save her, then save her. So I'm going in a direction where I think Jade and Nia get a double count out. Okay. I think that they fight on the outside and Jade spears Nia Jax through the barricade or something, and they both get counted out, and the official rules will, since they both lost, that means they're disqualified from the tournament, and whoever they were gonna face in the next round just gets a bye. Or is automatically the SmackDown representative. And so I'm going in that direction, which means my SmackDown representative and my eventual winner of the tournament, Tiffany Stratton.
Gotcha. I am, storyline wise, I'm going a slightly different direction, but I agree with you on both those counts. I think Tiffany wins it on the SmackDown side. She ran through NXT very quickly, butter like a hot knife through butter. Already in that main event picture. SmackDown, they want her there. They kind of need that heel there, especially since they moved Damage Control over to Raw. So I'm definitely, and she seems to be her and Jade are opposite in the ring right now. They both, I think, are ready main event wise for character wise. Tiffany's definitely a little more polished in the ring versus Jade, like you were saying. My thing is, I think Jade beats Nia. I think we kind of get that payoff from Rumble a little bit. So a solid match between those two. I like the counter idea though. I wish I'd have thought of that. Then Tiffany over Bianca. And I have Tiffany going over Jade just because, but it's because of experience with that.
Yeah, so that's one. Yeah. I mean, that's gets to the same end game with Jade,
right. Because I mean, if because of Jade's character and her strength and stuff, you can't just. She's one of those where you can't just have her lose clean. A lot of other wrestlers right now, I think that would, because she's still working on that in ring. I don't think you just quite do that with her yet. And Tiffany, I think this is a bigger story. I think too, as so I'm kind of going into the ring as well. I can get her a lone title shot that she's been wanting for a while, and we're off for the races. See what happens.
If you see me looking down a lot, guys, it's because the Celtics Game 5 is on right now, and right now they're not doing. we'll see how it goes. But no,
if he screams all of a sudden in the middle of his pop.
I mean, they're down their 3 of their best 6. Mind-boggling, stinking ball. Anyway, so yeah, back to I think that's a good option. I think for me, yeah, I think if you're gonna do Tiffany kind of going there, and you're not gonna have Jade lose before, I think obviously so I think both of us had the idea of like Jade versus Nia be kind of a so I think it works out either way.
Seeds were planted in Rumble. It's strength versus strength in a much different way for both those wrestlers. So I mean, I think that can create it easy for yourself until. Are you gonna eventually split beyond?
So do you also have Tiffany winning the tournament?
Yes, I have Tiffany winning the tournament. So we're pretty much 1 for 1 on this and the Queen of the Ring. And at the very beginning too, I was pretty much like looking at all the participants, and I was like, yeah, it's either gonna be Tiffany or Jade to win this. And I the more I thought about it, I was like, Tiffany just seems kind of the right one to pull right now. Because Jade's still kind of getting there. I think as a whole, for viewers, for products, for in the ring, I think she'll be great down the road. I really probably one of the best signings Triple H era. But she'll be there eventually. But Tiffany is just such a hot commodity right now. I mean, what was it, Chamber, that like everybody was cheering for Tiffany Chamber. So it's just like I don't know if they knew that's what they had on their hands. But I mean, they play the hot hand when they have it pretty well, and they're doing it really well with a lot of storylines right now. So, there's more reasons I feel they'll pull.
Right, in agreement.
All right, we'll find out. I think it's good matches throughout, though.
I do too. Absolutely.
Next topic is Bloodline. I've talked to Bloodline, which has completely evolved.
Yep.
Doesn't include Randy Orton, but it's completely involved. Thank you. It's completely involved, which is it's very interesting. We've gotten Tama Tonga in, which I think was kind of a hey, we probably have him, but then we got Tonga Loa, which I think was a complete surprise to most. At least was to me. It's like it wasn't one of those. Oh, there's another rumor of someone. Everybody was rumored like, oh, Jake Fatu's the next guy in, and no, he just kind of taking the back seat for Tonga Loa to come in. But it's so. I think it's kind of nice to see if we can get a Bloodline 2.0. Is it truly Soul pulling the strings? Is Roman pulling the strings from behind the scenes? Rock behind the scenes? What have you there? But I'm very curious what you think of the Bloodline right now, and what you think the potential of Bloodline 2.0 is down the road here, over the next few months or even the next year and a half. I think we've talked about ending the Bloodline story. If I go back to even to Mania, I picked Roman because it's like we're still telling a Bloodline story throughout that all with Cody being involved. So I feel like we still have that book of the Bloodline being written, baseball game of the Bloodline being played out. So I feel like we have still a ton to go. I'm very curious to hear what you think is kind of coming down the road next few months.
Yeah, I love what's going on with the Bloodline right now. And I know some people are kind of like, oh my god, is this ever going to end? I don't want it to end. No. This has been one of the best stories that they've ever told.
Yep.
We all got the happy ending that we all wanted, which was Cody winning the belt. And so now, I think that with Vince, you would get, okay, well, everybody just forget about the Bloodline now. All right, moving on to other things. Roman's going to act like he didn't just hold the belt for 3 years, and he's going to tag team with Solo and, say shucky ducky or whatever. Like, they're just going to completely say suffer and succotash, right? Like, it's just going to be a completely just like 180. Like, I know this is going to be a slight tangent here. Like, nothing will ever make me more angry than when Kofi Kingston held the belt for 6 months, lost it in 6 seconds, and then 3 nights later, he was cutting a promo with Xavier Woods throwing pancakes and smiling. Like, he just was like, oh, well, he just lost the belt. We're just going to go back to the New Day now. And it was just like, what? Do you not let this man have any pride? Like he's not he vaguely mentioned it that he was champion, and then he came back in the Rumble and got murdered by Brock again, and then they just dropped it. They never talked about it again. My God, so I couldn't stand when that kind of stuff would happen. So like I'm glad that the story is evolving. I'm glad that they're moving in a certain direction, and I think that the way that it's gone, not necessarily that it's been the natural course, but it's been a natural kind of way to go that makes sense. Where Solo is looking at everybody like, man, I think we might need to make some changes around. You know, I do understand the like logical fallacy of like Solo caring so much about winning when he hasn't won a TV match in like a year or whatever it was. Like it was a long time. So like yeah, fair enough, but I think it works. Obviously, I expected Jacob Fatu, as a lot of people did, I think, at Backlash. Obviously, we got Tongaloa instead. So it's one of those. It's one of those things where I wasn't expecting it. I'm not the biggest Tongaloa fan. I think there's a lot of people out there that if they watched his work in New Japan and watched his work previously in WWE, he leaves a lot to be desired. We'll put it that way. But you know, the Guerrillas of Destiny also were very successful in Japan as a tag team, and it seems like that's kind of the direction that they're going to go. But man, when Tongaloa was himself, it was. You haven't seen what happened when he faced Kazuchika Okada. It was rough. I don't know if you've seen it or not.
I have not, actually, no.
If you just look up Tongaloa versus Okada, I'm sure you'll see the 45-second to a minute clip striking Okada over and over again. It's the saddest thing. Anyway, you know, it wasn't my favorite move, but I get it, right? You know, because I think... For me, I think the natural way that they're going based on the story, Paul Heyman is losing Bloodline, Solo's going rogue. He's brought in two guys that just to say to everybody are not even technically in the Bloodline. They are like Rock just calls Haku, who's the dad of Tongaloa and Tama Tonga. He just calls him Uncle Haku. They're not related in any way, but Solo has now brought two guys in that are brothers that are not even bloodline. And so for me, I think the natural progression is Roman comes back, this is Jimmy and Jay to go on his side. I think that's kind of the direction that we're going. And then I'm sure Roman is going to probably go after Cody again, and we might get that rematch down the line. I don't know.
As a side of that, and I'll touch on that too, but I mean, that's the one thing where we haven't gotten those rematches with all the titles right away like we used to. We've had before, which I think is very interesting. You know, which kind of going back to the Queen of the Ring thing. Like, I meant to say this before too. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Eel wins that, because then that's the nice little segue to, you know, maybe get that rematch with, even though they're on opposite. You could still say you can still use that to, I want my rematch with that title. Obviously haven't had the Roman back for Cody yet. Rollins is off for a while, so we haven't really had and Drew and Priest haven't had the rematch yet, though they're probably leaning toward that here really soon. But it's, we haven't had those rematches yet to where it's like, I find it very interesting, but, we almost need that Cody Roman part 3. Because they've both won a match. So it's like, it would be a shame to not have them do one more match together. Right. And a Roman that's come back that's different. That's, he doesn't have all the henchmen, one way or the other, where it's just a pure match between the two of them, I think is what we really need. Just because, 39 was the Solo interference so close to the end where Cody almost had it, where it's like, it was a very well done story at Mania 40, with everybody being involved the way they were for Cody to win. But it's like, we need that rubber match just to be just the two of them.
I agree. Yeah,
I love every second of it. I don't care who's heel, who's face. Doesn't have, and I feel like we're getting to a WWE where it doesn't. Neither of them have to be one or the other perfectly because it's like even I feel like the faces right now have an edge to them, not like a mean edge to them, but it's like I'm gonna stand up for myself edge, not a baby face. I'll just take whatever now. Hey, yay! You know.
Yeah.
I feel like that's even changed, or it welcome change. Even that build up to Mania for Cody. Cody was this fire, his promos. Like he was still the face, but he was like standing up for myself. I am doing what I have to do, defending myself, defending my decisions. So I know I've kind of pulled you out of that there too, but yeah, no, I hope we get. I think we will. I hope that I can't wait for.
Yeah, I can't either. I don't think it's going to be at Mania. I think honestly, Mania is going to be Rock Cody. I think we're going to get Rock Roman. So that's kind of where I'm leaning with that. But at least in the immediate future, I obviously just expect the Bloodline to continue havoc, cause some chaos, cause some craziness. This is going to kind of lean into some of the stuff I'll talk about later on and some of our other topics, of course. So I don't want to divulge too much here.
That's fine.
But I expect Solo to start picking up some wins rather quickly. I expect Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa to compete and probably win the tag titles at some point, the SmackDown tag titles. Honestly, rather soon. I don't really think much is being moved with A-Town Down Under with the belts.
Right.
So I think you either need a big babyface win or just put them on the. Yeah. One of the two. So that's kind of where I'm at with it.
What do you? Two questions I have kind of for you. One of our favorite podcasters has talked about. Just at this point, just bring everybody and anybody you can that's Tongan or Samoan or what have you that can be associated with the Bloodline. Because there's a couple of noise out there. We still haven't seen Jacob Fatu. I think there's Zilla Fatu out there.
Jacob and Zilla Fatu, yeah.
There's one or two that Sam mentioned last Monday. I forget. LA. There's another LA out there.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
I can't remember off the top of my head. And actually, I know. Okay. I did at one point because what was fun for me when I threw one of this as one of the topics out for us was just I literally had to just pull up some stuff and like, wait, how are the Tongans in this? And like Uncle Haiku thing, and it's like, but then you do have Zil Fatu and Jake Fatu. You have Lance Anoa'i. I hope I pronounced. He's essentially everybody's cousin. Some are first cousins. Some their first cousin was removed, or semi pseudo nephews. Even as how I see some refer to. It's right. Like they're it's like Rock and Roman are cousins, but almost just because there is a blood oath, really. Because otherwise, but I think that's cool, and I mean, and just so many generations of all these guys. I mean, Ishii and Maga and stuff like it's kind of cool. Like looking back at some of those, remembering, oh yeah, it's like Usos were actually shared the ring with Rikishi right when they were starting as Rikishi was coming out, and it's like that was really cool. Some really cool moments and. Yeah, no, that was just kind of fun. So I think you could put a lot in there. What do you think of like? One theory I heard is you bring in all these guys, whether they're independents or New Japan, and you basically create the
NWO.
No, not an NWO. Oh, I hope they don't go that direction because then that gets unless this is what we should have done at the end. I don't think you'll get up to like 50 members, but Bullet Club within the WWE, because at least one theory I've heard is you create a Bullet Club and then Judgment Day is kind of starting to fall apart, so you can bring Finn in a little bit. You bring in Good Brothers, they were kind of they were original founding members. I was part of the original founding members of the Bullet Club. Which I didn't know that. I was when I was hearing that and just that's really cool. So I feel like there's a lot of possibilities. But do you think that's almost too convoluted to go that big to make a
Yeah,
couple from WWE.
yeah. I don't think Triple H is gonna try to pawn stories from outside places that have already. I think if anything, he would try to tell stories that have been told in his own company. Hash it with. And so for me, I don't think so. I think what I could see is if you did want to bring all those guys over, you could have it be like Bloodline. There's some of them on Raw, some of them on SmackDown, and some of them on NXT, and just try and have it be like divide and conquer.
That'd be cool.
We take over every brand and just kind of have it all like we're all working together. We're all going everywhere and interfering in matches. But even that, I think, is just gonna get annoying, and it's just gonna get so like ridiculous. Where like every match has interference, and every match is not clean, and every match it's just gonna get nuts. So for me, I don't know if I'd go that route. I think that you really should stick to what you have right now, and then maybe if you want to add Jacob Fatu in a couple of months, then go ahead and do that. But right now, I'd probably just stick to what you.
Do you think we could get like a Civil War Survivor Series?
Yeah,
War Games
that is something that I could very easily see. I could see, I could see like a solo, obviously, Tangalo, Tama Tonga, and Jacob Fatu, and Jimmy J, and then somebody else. I don't know.
I've got a guy.
I don't know if you bring in like Sami Zayn or somebody like that. That's just like hates the bloodline and just wants to, like help out or whatever. Or I don't know. Like I can't think of anybody else off the top of my head that would make some sense. I mean, maybe like or something random, like somehow like throw Cody in there and make it make sense. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think you could. That would actually, be kind of fun. Cause when I was thinking through kind of where I would take this over the next year and a half, honestly, I won't spend time. I have stuff listed out where I think would be fun to do. But someone like bringing in someone even like Cody to align those two, after all the bad blood that they've had, but it's like Cody's back in, a year or even 2 years from now, a year from now, Roman's in Cody's position and Cody is in Rollins' position. Like, we'll help you here because this has gotten out of hand. That's what Rollins did. Rollins like, I'm helping you because it's gotten out of hand. So I could see Cody kind of coming in to do that with Roman. Just I think that'd be fun.
I think it would be fun.
I think a lot of possibilities.
Sure.
Well, personally, I thought it was fun, and I don't think we've really seen anything social media wise from Roman since like the day or two after Mania, where he's just basically on a treadmill and it's like, I forget this phrase he used. It's like, I'll be back. Don't worry, I'm not going. I'll be back. I'd love to see him come back. Kind of after SummerSlam. SummerSlam's in August, so that still gives us 3.5 months. So it still give him, it'll give him a good almost 5 months off, I believe. Come back right around right after SummerSlam. I want the version of Roman to where he's like to wreck everyone, because when that was just where the bloodline was, we didn't quite realize where we were going with the bloodline, and he was just dominant without the avert.
Yeah.
And I want that Roman back because that's what made me fall in love with the storyline more. I've always been a Roman guy. I'm eagerly waiting him to come back. I'd love for him to come back where first we see like an episode after SmackDown after SummerSlam where Jacob Fatu he comes out kind of almost the same way he did with Tama. He's just beating up on the next victim of the next week. Maybe it's even Jimmy. It's like, we're not done with you, Jimmy. Because we obviously haven't seen him since right after WrestleMania. I think you debut Jacob Fatu the same fashion. That way you kind of got two brothers over here, and what are the other two brothers? But I see that, and then the very next week we finally get Roman. First, second week of finally get Roman back. He comes back. We see him interact with Cody right away, where he's like, "Forgot about you, but I have some family business that I have to take care of right now. Got out of hand. I'll be back for you, but I gotta go take care of family stuff." I think you see him at the end of that SmackDown episode where he's talking with Jimmy, like, back, we're gonna take care of this, we're gonna take care of your brother. Got out of hand. He's supposed to do some things, but he's taking it too far. And then we pan out as as the logo goes up before we go to black. See Lance. Mm-hmm. So bring his nephew, bring his cousin, nephew. Cause I saw both. Bring Lance in. I think Lance and Jacob are, I think, the final two for me to bring in. I don't feel like there's more that they want to sign and bring in, great. But I think, like you said, then I think it just gets too much. Or where do you go? Or a couple years maybe that'd be great to see guys come back or come into the fold back. I kind of like the Civil War idea. What a lot of people are talking about. I honestly push that off for a little while though. I don't think it's quite. I think since we're kind of off of so close to Mania still at the same time, we're still reacting to what all happened there. I feel like something that is like maybe too much. I think you kind of tease it. I think Survivor Series you could get Lance and Jimmy versus Tam and Tonga. Roman and Solo don't want to really. They might get involved, but they're more just like, guys, go get those guys. Go take care of them. That leads into the Saudi show where you get a 3-on-3 of all six. At the Saudi show, and then we take a little detour here, line with Roman. So I'm gonna kind of take Roman here, where it's like, Rollins kind of interjects him and is like, "What do you think you're doing back? What are you doing now? Trying to conquer now?" And we finally get the match we've been, we finally get a match between Roman and Rollins. I think you could do Roman and Rollins Royal Rumble right in the middle of the Bloodline stuff. Just kind of take some of that aside. Especially if you get to that trios like a street fight even, where you kind of want to push the blind line, like, throw them off a little, put them off a little bit. Not too long, maybe a couple months till Rumble. I think you can do Roman and Rollins there. And then we get back to the Bloodline. And at some point, I feel Roman and Solo have to say, and it makes this a true tribal chief match, not the match that they did with Jay and Roman. Tribal combat, and they just basically made it a DQ match. A DQ didn't quite go right. I think you need to do a true tribal combat match between Roman and Solo. But you make Rock do this at Chamber next. And then that's when we find out Rock's been the one ordering around Solo and all these guys. Like, Rock went, like, Roman went, I did whatever I could for Roman, but then he decided to go away, so I took the Bloodline in my own hands. This is what I made. I'm the special referee. He orders Solo to take the pin. But he's like, no. Solo, do your job. I can have my match with at WrestleMania. I think we'll get Rock and Roman at this year's WrestleMania. And that's where we get them defend, battling for Tribal Chief. Battling for the Tribal Chief title. I think with that, that's where we finally get Jay back into the fold. And then after Mania next year, we've paid off One Rock, and in the Money in the Bank, months after there, we our Rhodes and Roman match finally. That third match between them, and then that can finally lead into Survivor Series, War Games, Bloodline 1.0, Bloodline 2.0. Roman, the Usos, and Solo.
Well, I'll tell you what, you've definitely put a lot more thought into this than I have, but I'm here for it, man. I'm in it for the ride. I'm excited to see where it goes, all the possibilities, all the matches, all the everything. I just can't wait. I'm just really excited for it.
And I don't expect it to really go this way at all. The Rollins one,
you're probably not too far off, honestly.
The Rollins one, I wouldn't be surprised if we get, kind of what we were talking about earlier with the Civil War match, maybe this year's Survivor Series we could. To me, I feel it's like we got to get Roman and Rollins soon. I couldn't find a good spot to interject it, but I didn't want to wait till next fall because we still have to get Rock and Roman. We still have to get Roddy. We still have to get Rock and Roman. We still have to get Cody and Roman. I was like, well, let's just put Rollins. That's a good main event for a Royal Rumble there. So.
Sure.
But yeah, no, it's the story in itself. I can't wait to see where they go because so many possibilities. So many possibilities, and they're doing very well at telling it. And I think a lot of it, Paul Heyman is. I think him and Triple H are just lock and step with it. Where me and Roman's even, Roman's being like, let's go this way with creative and stuff. Because I mean, Roman's not dumb.
No,
to where I feel, especially he's pulling away from wrestling more. A little bit left, a little bit, where he might be getting that more of that creative side. It's like I want to highlight my cousins, and I want to highlight my family members. This and that. How do we get to here? How do we get to there? It's like, and that's where you can say this is where the goal should be. How do we get there? What if we did this and this and that? Like, I'd love to be fly on the wall in this kind of conversation.
Oh yeah, I think all of us would. Oh yeah, 100%.
So that was so. So all that to say, that's year and a half away. Since we're in the spirit of taking some stuff away, Money in the Bank is in July. I thought it'd be fun with everything right now, just to quickly pick our Money in the Bank winners. Okay. Who do you have for your men's Money in the Bank? Do you have a bunch of guys you're trying to pick from, or do you just have one guy that sticks out?
So I did have a bunch of guys. I think with the guys in particular, I struggled. It's kind of hard to see what direction they're going in or what they even should do, because for me, I think that the Money in the Bank pretty much 100% of the time, I wouldn't say 100%. I would say almost 100% of the time should go to a bad guy that's just gonna make it like, because I think that's what it's for. It's right. There for a heel to sneak a championship win that nobody wants or cares about. Not even that cares about. That's probably not the best way to phrase that. Like, just that you wouldn't expect, like The Miz a couple of years ago. Like, really? The Miz? Like, was he a main event player at the time? Probably not, but it worked out, right? So, like, that's kind of what I think should happen most of the time. Now, there's extenuating circumstances like Big E a few years ago. 100% of us. There's extenuating circumstances like that where I'm like, yeah, you should probably give it to them.
That got him that match we've been wanting to have with that.
Yeah, exactly. Or to give like a babyface just a big moment that they deserve. Those are really only the two that I could think of. But I kind of bounced around with a bunch of different guys, and I landed on one. I'm not super confident that it's going to happen this way, but we've spent the last 30 minutes, 25 minutes talking about the Bloodline. How crazy do you want it to get? This probably won't happen. I'm going out there. I'm putting it out there. I pick a Solo Sikoa. I think the way that I would kind of blend it all together is Solo has taken over the Bloodline. And Roman has, quote unquote, told Solo to take over until he gets back. Solo gets that power going ahead. Bloodline cost everybody the match. Solo gets the briefcase. He's cashing in on Cody. I would love to see it be he announces the match before and just thinks that he can Cody just because I'm confident.
Yeah.
Like, I think that would make more sense for the story, but I wouldn't be shocked if he just tries to come down and cashes it in after Cody's to shreds by somebody. But either way, Solo's setting up for that spike that's going to put, and that's, and Roman comes out and basically it's like, look at Solo, because that's the moment you sit there and think, okay, Solo's gone way too far. Now he's coming after the championship and the guy that I need my revenge. And so there's only so far that Roman can let Solo go before he knows it's a point of no return and Solo's going to lose his mind and try and take over his tribal chiefdom, which is the... So I think that's kind of where you get, and then that's the kind of crux of Bloodline 2.0, original Bloodline there. Now Roman comes back and he's like, hey man, I thought we were all on the same page. What the heck's going on? And for a couple of weeks, Solo pretends to fall back in line, but we all know he's going to... you know, like just
Yep.
that was a lot of Samoan spikes, by the way. But you know, like, and then obviously, you know, Jay tries to save his cousin and everything, and then they have to try to convince Jimmy to get back on board, and Jimmy doesn't know what to do, or maybe Jimmy does go defend his cousin. Maybe that's when Jimmy comes back, and they have to convince Jay to get back on board. That actually probably makes more sense, honestly. I'll go with that second one. Just pretend I didn't say the first one. It never happened. But, you know, like, that kind of be the way I'd blend that together. But moving on from that, if you don't want to go that nuts with Money in the Bank, I mean, I think that would make a lot of sense.
I mean, why not?
But I think, you know, a guy like Bronson Reed could really do good with that briefcase. Just a big, like, just gargantuan man just hovering around the main event scene all the time on Raw. I'd love to see them give it to Braun Breaker right away if you believe in him that strongly. I think that one's the least likely. Not of everyone. Kira Tozawa's the least. Out of everyone. Sorry.
Watch him be in the match.
Oh, I'd die if he was in the match. That'd be great. Because I would just see him
on the ladder. Needs to stay there.
I would love to see him just have set up a ladder in the ring, climb it all the way to the top, and have another guy laying on a ladder, and him just do that bonsai drop or whatever. Just off a ladder, just goes through it. Just we'll be seeing you, buddy. But anyway, But anyway, you know, I think out of all the people I'm about to say, Braun's probably the least likely. I wouldn't mind seeing Braun Strowman win it again. Reinsert himself back in the main event. Bobby Lashley, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind even Logan Paul winning it. I mean, I said like a sniveling, conniving heel. Mm-hmm. Logan Paul is exactly that. So, like, there's a lot of ways you could go. But the one that I like the most is Solo and the story that you could tell with that. So I'm going to say Solo. But I think the likelihood of that, I think the most likely winner, unfortunately, is probably Logan.
I actually, it's an interesting pick there because I feel like you could do that. Have him. I mean, I think he'll probably maintain the U.S. title through some of them. But if he were to drop it the night of Money in the Bank, and then he just goes to all this and Pierce is like, put me in this match, or he takes out someone that's in the match. And he's like, right here for you guys.
Yep.
That'd be perfect for him. Again, as much as we don't like him winning, we a lot of respect, and for me to take into this so well, like a fish to water.
Yeah.
And I think that would kind of how you describe the Money in the Bank, what it usually goes. I mean, he hits all his marks perfectly.
Yeah. And you could say whatever you want about Logan. People, guy's guts, that he's an awful person, and I'm not here to tell you that he's a good. I don't know. I don't have the first clue. But I will say that what really impressed me at McAfee's show, I can't remember what he was on. He was on a talk show. And you can disagree with this or you could agree with it. It doesn't really matter. He said that wrestling was harder. Fighting Kevin Owens is harder than fighting Floyd Mayweather. Because when you're fighting Floyd Mayweather, you have to worry about Floyd. When you're fighting Kevin Owens or when you're in the wrestling ring, you don't necessarily worry about Kevin Owens or facing. You worry about 50,000 people and making them happy, having them have a good time, and how seriously he takes that job and how much he cares about that.
And enjoys playing the heel role.
That is just something.
Because he knows.
Right, and that's just something you can't teach. That's just something that's something that you have or you don't. And not only that, you have or you don't the ability to actually do that, by the way. With no formal training before he stepped into the ring, essentially, outside of just his athleticism naturally through boxing and other avenues. He just did this. Like, he was born to do this. Like, that's the kind of... And so, for me, you know what? I don't know what kind of man Logan Paul is in any way, shape, or form. And so I don't know if, as a man, he deserves it. But as a performer, he deserves it. I think that he would do really well with it. And plus, you just know he's good. He's gotta win a world title at some point. Like, he's too good at this already and too young for him to not win it. I'm not saying it's going to be this year. I'm not saying it should be this year. I'm not saying it's going to be tomorrow. I don't know. I hope it's not in a couple of weeks. That would be unfortunate. He's fighting Cody Rhodes.
That'd be completely blow up.
Oh my god! I feel. Yeah, no. I'm good, but no. I think for me, Logan makes sense to me right now for him to win it. I think that it would kind of. SmackDown needs a little bit more star power at the moment. Out Roman. I think it's very Bloodline heavy, and I know Roman doesn't necessarily help that aspect of it. Like you mentioned earlier, there's no top heels on SmackDown. The reason Logan Paul is having a championship match right now, one, because he's very popular in Saudi Arabia for some reason.
Yeah, isn't this like his third Saudi match?
Yeah.
He's faced Roman, he's faced Ray, and now he'll face Cody. Which, by the way, I saw. Sorry, sidebar here.
Good.
I saw. I don't know. I forget where I saw this posted, but he interviewed Roman, had a match. Interviewed Rollins, they had a match. Interviewed Ray, then they had. Interviewed Randy, then they had a match. Then he just interviewed Cody, and now they're having a match.
Yeah. Yeah. If he interviews like Drew Funaki, next week, you better watch out, Funaki. He's coming at you. Poor Funaki. Anyway, I think that he could be the top heel on SmackDown, which is wild. And I almost don't want that in a way, just because I think it's a waste. I think that he's a much better mid-card player, not talent-wise, but just you'd like to see a not Logan Paul be your top heel. Just kind of as just a pure wrestling fan, you're like, really? None of the guys that have been doing this since they were 6 years old can figure this out? Really? So that's kind of the way I look at it. But I think Logan Paul makes sense this year. And then outside of that, yeah, I don't think you've said who you think at this point. So you educate me. Do you have one of those guys that I mentioned?
I actually have Braun Breaker winning.
Okay, listen, I would love that. That would be wonderful.
I just don't know. I am.
Right, I just don't know how much sense it makes this year, but I love it. Yeah,
Braun Breaker. Yeah, just wear it with the hat.
When's your birthday?
October.
I'll try to remember. I'll get you one. Okay, I'll get you one. You'll have a podcast hat and a podcast shirt. It'll be every Wednesday or every Tuesday you're on here. We're just wearing the same outfit. Are they just recording all these? Are they just recording all this in bulk? Just 98 episodes back to back. They just stayed up for 5 days straight just recording. Anyway,
we could.
I would really like to know.
I think it'd be fun, but no.
By the end, we would just
be too old for that.
By the end, I would think Funaki actually was wrestling Logan Paul. It's Funaki, right? It's devolved into chaos.
Yes, it has, but it always does with us. It always does. I think Braun would be a lot of fun because I think you could just have him come out during title matches and just stand there. Have the briefcase in his hand. We've talked about this before. Him kind of being that next Brock Lesnar type of force. It's like we were talking about off camera of one of my funniest moments I think with Brock was with him with the boombox Money in the Bank briefcase. As much as we both hated him winning it, there's a couple funny moments with that. But I feel like you could, that's what I would do with Braun for a little bit. And kind of have him, maybe feign some attempts, but it's actually I'm not in the mood. Walk away. But it just caused natural chaos in the main title scene. Hang on to it 5-6 months, and okay, I'll cash in now. I've always liked the idea of, it doesn't happen often, but when someone declares next PLE, I'm cashing this in, it's our match. I think that's an easier way to be going for this main title, especially if you get this last second injury. It's I played this mess up. Oh, well, let's do this. I don't see Braun doing something like that. I think he would just come in and wreck someone. But I think it's just a matter of timing him if you did put the briefcase on him. Because you have so many main event storylines right now between Drew and Priest, Drew and Punk, Rollins when he gets back, Jay if you want to, obviously Gunther, deserving to be in that conversation as well.
And that's the problem, is that every single one SmackDown is just Cody and the Blood. And it's very like I was very disappointed in the draft. Now, obviously, you've got some kind of young guys that are going to step in, like Braun Breaker, that are going to be.
I honestly thought about maybe putting this on Carmelo Hayes. That was actually
he's a good. I think
today.
he'd be a good heel to carry that around. I just don't know if it's. I don't know how credible it would be for people. He really won on TV. He hasn't done much.
That's why
right?
I didn't go with him.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't think enough people have been exposed to him. You know, obviously the Cody match should probably wonder for him.
Oh, sure.
What do we have?
Oh, his in-ring work I've never worried about.
Yeah.
That's another guy that I've never worried about.
I think he's growing on the mic. You know, pull up Trick. But I mean, I think Trick's got a little bit of a run here.
I think until Obafemi steps up and eventually beats Trick. I think. God. Okay, we're gonna pause.
Of Obafemi.
We're gonna
talk about Braun
pause.
Baker.
We're gonna
They
pause
break the ring
for just 1 second and talk about how ridiculous Obafemi is. You don't have to join in if you don't want to. But
floor is yours.
That guy has there's very few guys that stepped into NXT and just instantly was oh, he's better than everybody. And I don't mean better on the mic. He still needs a little work. His character still needs a little work. It is still a little bit vague as to what he wants and what his goals are. But the presence, the presentation, and the in-ring work, and how he look, Omos. We all talk about Omos and how much we just don't care about Omos. He doesn't make things look like it hurts other people very much. And I get it. He's gigantic. He's trying not to actually kill someone. Fine. I understand. I'd rather you actually not kill someone, so fine, go ahead.
Yeah.
But Obafemi just makes everything look like he's killing his. And that's wild that he's already got that down. He's got such a unique presence and presentation already. I think the millisecond he loses that North American Championship, he should immediately challenge for the NXT Championship. I'm talking Karrion Kross level NXT. Go in, show up, kill everyone, and then that's it.
Hold them both.
Hold them both. Sure, why not?
I like Keith Lee from back in the day.
Yeah, exactly. Just do that. I don't care. I think that's how good he is. And so until Obafemi is ready to take that step, I think Trick should hold the belt. Because quite frankly, NXT and especially the main event scene in NXT was really gutted in the no Dragunov, no Dijak, no Corbin, no Hayes. All these guys are gone, right? So you got basically Trick Willie. He's facing Noam Dar in his first.
Really?
Yeah, in his first defense. Come on. Listen, nothing against Noam.
Last I heard he had the Heritage Cup, so.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyway, that's my Obafemi rant for the day. But I think that, Trick, could come up and it can make sense for Hayes. I just don't think right now is his time. And so I would love Braun Breaker. Definitely. Yeah. I think the problem for me is I could see him winning it if he was on Raw, which is why I was hoping he'd get drafted to Raw and not SmackDown. Because I think if your main event is Cody Rhodes versus Rock at WrestleMania, what is Braun Breaker going to do? Sure, Damian Priest just held the briefcase for a year plus, but he's also in a faction. He can get away with not being on TV every night, or not being in every match, or he won the tag title, so he's focused on that. He can also be. You can cover up Money in the Bank for pretty much long stretches where nobody really thinks. If Braun's by himself, that's going to be really hard to just have him be oh, I'm going to kill someone in 8 months. That's kind of a rough kind of edged story to tell. I would love to see how they would figure it out if they went that direction. Because my gosh, if he wins that thing, he doesn't win a belt, I'm gonna lose it. So as I'm sure you would probably do. But anyway, yeah.
Part of the reason I'm putting it on him.
Right. So yeah, I think he's a future world champion, and it's not going to take very long for him to win it. I think that once you kind of get through this Bloodline story where the title itself is involved, I think that's when you can start to have, guys like Breaker, Hayes, Trick Williams by then, Dragunov, Gunther fighting for that belt, LA Knight, guys fighting for that belt instead of basically just oh, well, Cody's got to hold it for a year. Roman held it for 4 years, and the only belt that you could conceivably win. That I feel like is.
And I honestly, I don't think take another sidebar here. This is, I will say, what I'm about to bring up, I thought about putting it as my bold prediction, but I didn't quite want to. I had like 2 ideas I was bouncing between, but I honestly kind of like give Rhodes good 4, maybe 6 months title. I don't think it hurts him if he loses the title.
No, it might not. Yeah, and if they tell the story right, it wouldn't.
I think you almost. I wouldn't. I'd like to kind of see the top titles be hot shotted every 6-9 months a little bit, just that way we can kind of get some guys back in the main event, and it gets more of that struggle, so we don't have these long reigns, So and we just had 2 titles I went through, 2 really long reigns, 2+ years, or almost 2 years with IC title and 4 or over 4 on undisputed title. But it's like, I don't think you're going to try to do that again because you can only replicate things like that so often, if ever again. But it's like, let's hot shot them. And you got different TV deals going on to where January Raw's going to Netflix, and SmackDown's going back to USA, and in between, and NXT is going to get its own spot on the CW even. So It's like, I feel like you're obviously, WWE is obviously trying to position itself to where they're trying to maximize their viewership in different ways and experiment with. Let's start hot shot these titles. Maybe hot shot's the wrong word if you're still hanging on to them every 6-9 months. But then I don't think it. Then you can do those Money in the Bank cash-ins, night of the Money in the Bank, and not hurt the current title holder. I think what they're doing with Priest right now, which was what we were worried about, with once Priest takes it, what do you do? Now Drew's hurt a little bit right now, so I think that's kind of aided that story. What you do, but I mean, I think we're gonna get that match sooner or later here, really soon. When good, they alluded to it last Monday, but I think that title's gonna get hot shotted. I think that's the easiest one to kind of hot shot, but let's see that as IC title. Let's see that on Chad in a month or 2. Let's see it on, Bronson Reed. See it on Reed. Let's see the IC title on Breaker or whatever. Let's see it move around these guys. Ilya, let's put it on Ilya for a little while. Let him get him, or that'd be fun actually. See Ilya have the IC title for over a year, and it's like big company. You could do fun little things with that too. So I'm hoping that we kind of see these titles get moved around a little bit. Again, it doesn't have to ever be 2 or every other PLE or anything like that. I think then that just, of course, there's gonna be a title change tonight. But it's like every 6-9 months. If I think they can tell a story right to where it's like, right now it's time to elevate this guy, and we've had our dream matches and stuff like that. Maybe that takes another year. Maybe that takes getting through another Mania season before we start seeing that more. Because then we might finally get all our Cody dream matches and our Rock dream matches and our Roman dream matches, and then it's like now we have a whole new NXT guys are called up and established now. What we've talked about Ilya and Brock and Breaker and Hayes. It's like that's kind of our next 3, because our 3 right now are Rollins, Roman, and Cody. Maybe that's kind of like our next 3 to carry. Could be so many possibilities for so many people, to where it's like everybody's starting to get some kind of a storyline, and it's wonderful. Like I think the men's Money in the Bank is literally anybody.
Oh yeah, and that's a good thing.
Yes.
The women.
Yes. You go first. I wouldn't be surprised if we're the same pick on this, but go first.
So this was significantly easier for me.
Yes.
To me, there are 2 possible people that this should be.
Yes.
And I will accept no other people. I don't care what anybody else has to argue. There are 2 acceptable answers. Number 1 is Tiffany Stratton. That's an acceptable answer.
Agreed.
I would absolutely love to see that. Here's why I'm not picking Tiffany Stratton.
Okay.
In my world, she's already won Queen of the Ring. And I think if you do Queen of the Ring in May and then Money in the Bank in July and she wins them both, I think that's a bit aggressive. that implies that she won Queen of the Ring, had a title shot, and lost, and now she needs to go back and get money to get. I think it's a bit clunky. I think that you kind of pick one. She doesn't win Queen of the Ring, you give her Money in the Bank. Doesn't if you don't want her to win money, if she wins Queen of the Ring, then you don't have her win money. To me, that just is a little more clean, right? And so there is one person that I will accept, other than Tiffany Stratton. If they win Tiffany Stratton, I would. Who is the most annoying, conniving, sniveling person? And I don't just mean like, I mean literally superstar, either gender on the roster. Chelsea Green! If there is one person that would be just the absolute most annoying, worst, and I mean worst in the best way, by the way, Money in the Bank holder,
doing a really good job.
It is Chelsea Green. Like, Chelsea Green would absolutely ruin our lives with that briefcase, which is exactly what it's made for. It is made for someone like Carmella 5 years ago.
Yep.
Where she
That's
like,
exactly
she was just like, oh my god, like she won't stop screaming. This is horrible. Like it just, but that's what she was supposed to do. She was supposed to be annoying and like not better than anyone in the ring that she was going up against. Charlotte, Becky, Sasha Banks, Asuka, like all these people that she was beating, partially because of James Ellsworth, and we won't talk about that aspect of it. But the point is like Chelsea, if she just like, imagine like kind of like what happened with Otis a few years ago, where like two actual good wrestlers are like wrestling up top for the briefcase. It falls, and Chelsea's just laying there. It just falls on her lap, and she's, I did it! Ah! Just starts like losing her mind. Like it would be absolutely beautiful. And when she cashes in and wins a world title belt, the annoying, just the like horribleness that would ensue. It would be like cinema storytelling. It would be amazing. So like for me, one choice to win it all, like you open this closet door, you go to Narnia, you fall to your death. Like what I'm picking the door that says Chelsea Green. Like that's where I'm going with it. I think she's gotta win Miss Money in the Bank.
Oh wow, that'd be wow. I mean,
that's the whole point of it, right?
That would,
and think of the contrast, right? And at least in my world, you got Logan Paul on one side, just really annoying. But even let's just go with yours, right? Braun Breaker, just an absolute killer. And then the other side, Chelsea Green, like just the wild, like up here and down here, like just, oh yeah, Chelsea Green. That's my pick. What do you say?
I'm actually going Tiffany Stratton.
Okay, and again, that's acceptable. That's fine. That's a great pick.
I know, and to kind of counter what you're saying about winning Queen of the Ring and winning Money in the Bank, I think that it shows her dominance and them just pulling the trigger on probably one of the hottest products they have on the women's side in wrestling right now. Again, she took to this so well. I listened to her interview with Chris Van Vliet the other day. And a lot of fun, very interesting. How she kind of just got into it. By happenstance, is like, wow, I like this. Wow, I'm actually good at this. And everybody else is like, wow, you're good at this.
Right.
So I think that's, I think you're pulling the trigger on that. With that, I think, me as showing your dominance, I think with story, you'd have to have her lose in a weird way with her Queen of the Ring shot, for a title. Make it a little more sense to put Money in the Bank on here. But I think that just go with the dominance of her for her with that. I wouldn't be surprised by Chelsea Green. If Liv Morgan doesn't have a title by the time Money in the Bank happens, I could see her getting it. I've had it before though. Let's come close at least. Right. So I feel you have some options on both rosters right now with that. Maybe not as much.
Are you saying Liv Morgan has had it? Yeah, no, she cashed in on Ronda Rousey.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, like years ago.
Something like that.
But so I think I feel you have some options there. I think Tiffany just kind of seems to be, let's ride the wave of the momentum of her and her dominance right now.
Right.
Pull the trigger with that, and I think, especially if, and I don't know. I think it'd be interesting to see how long she would hold on to it.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I can see her kind of waiting for a little bit just because I don't really want. I know I could beat them or that, or but it's like make it to where there's a good, credible opponent for her. So maybe in the women's landscape right now, maybe it actually is better for someone like Chelsea Green to win.
Yeah,
I don't know. I can see that though, but
like, can't you just see Chelsea Green and have Becky just be like, "You gotta be kidding me!" Like, just like I could just see it, but no, Tiffany Stratton again. I said at the beginning there are two acceptable picks. Tiffany Stratton's one of them. I have no problem with Tiffany Stratton. I just prefer Chelsea, just for all the reasons we talked. Anyways, all right, is it time?
it's time for the bold prediction, man. We were talking about 5 topics. You brought this up for the 5th one, so take it away. What's your bold prediction of what's gonna happen over the next year-ish, or at least by Mania next year? That is like, bold prediction that could happen before.
So I capped this prediction. It's going to end at WrestleMania. That's where, well, I mean, obviously the story's going to kind of booking it to WrestleMania. And I'm not going to really book much. It's going to be the base thing. I'm not going to spend 8 minutes talking about this, I promise.
Just 27?
27 and a half. No. Okay. Ready?
I don't know. I'm scared.
Talked a lot about how I was upset that Ilya Dragunov was a safe match later on. My bold prediction: do not do because Dragunov joins Imperium. He joins Imperium. Wait. Ilya Dragunov wins the Intercontinental Championship. Gunther wins World Heavyweight Championship, WrestleMania, and already the two of them tag team. That by WrestleMania 41, as the night ends, Imperium, meaning Gunther and Ilya Dragunov, every championship. My bold prediction. Wow. As a team. And then, from there, so what that does is that establishes Ilya Dragunov's killer instinct. And what it's also going to do is it's going to have the Intercontinental Champion, World Champion in the same ring at the same time on the same level. And I think that that's important, especially because Gunther's level is all the way the heck up here. All the way the heck up here. And then, and I know I said I wasn't going to book, but you can keep going. However long you want Gunther to hold that title. Dragunov, it's in the inner. Back a couple. What happened? He's the one who takes. But the only way you do that, and I can see this happening because Triple H and his long-term storytelling absolutely on point. And I think right now the babyface Ilya Dragunov's flat because for some reason they decided to put in his first Ricochet, who everyone loves, and Jey Uso, who literally is like the most popular superstar outside of Cody in the company. Those were his first 2 opponents. So to me, that tells me
Where's the bad guy anyway?
I don't know. I think
Maybe?
I think
My limited exposure to him. That's what
I think he works better as a good guy just because of the like I'm never gonna quit. I can endure all kinds of attitude that he has.
Gotcha.
I think it just makes more sense as a babyface to have that. But I think that his aggression and his persona probably is. So there's good and there's bad there. But I think that you need to build his character and his kind of ferocity more than his. And he could do that as a heel. So have him be in a tag team with Gunther for a year. Win the Raw belts. Win the Intercontinental Championship from whoever, from Gable, from Sami Zayn, from whoever, as a bad guy. And then, Gunther wins the world title at Mania, and the picture ending night 1, or whatever you want to do, is Dragunov and Gunther in the same ring, holding all the championships on Raw, and then you do that breakup, and that's how you get that match. Ilya then turns face. Everyone's wanting to see him beat Gunther. And then there you go. Like, there's your story. That's my bold prediction. Is it going to happen?
Yes.
Absolutely not. They're not crazy, stupid, or testicularly fortified enough to do it. That's not, no.
That would
but
be
you
fun.
know
I'm
what?
here for it, though, if it happens. Or
The segment's called Bold Predictions,
Yep.
and it's bold.
Yep.
I'm going for it, man.
No, I like that. A lot of ways. I feel like that's almost, it's kind of what I wish they. I think I've said this before. What I wish they would have done with the Bloodline at the very beginning of putting all the gold on them. And even roping in this is kind of maybe just putting people in the Bloodline, just put people in the Bloodline, but put someone from the women's division in the Bloodline. Got Naomi back now,
Yeah.
It's like where you have a women's title, take champs, U.S. You could have done so many things. And maybe they could in a year or two when maybe they're all reunited and there are this big brooding 7, 8, 9 people. We could put all the titles on them. And I was thinking that talking about put them all over in every brand. But no, I like that, just showing the dominance. Oh, what do you do with Ludwig Kaiser during all that though? He just introduces everybody all the time, I guess.
He's just a henchman at that point. They're bad guys, right? They're not going to want to fight all their fights. So,
honestly, if they wouldn't have split Vinci off, which I'm not really sure why, and if
it was a bit weirdly.
And we haven't seen him since, because they split him, and then they got drafted
Giovanni
separate.
Vinci. That's the 2K logo. The generic. Like, I'm not that's not a joke. He literally is. Like, the guy that does the base 2K formations is Giovanni Vinci. Like, I'm not that's not a joke. I know that sounds like a really mean joke. It's not a joke. Like, he's literally as generic as it gets in terms of just what he looks like.
Yeah, he is.
But hey, anyway.
I could even see that if those two were together, because then you could put all the gold on them. But I think to get that domineering picture of both of those and to put them both in the same plane, like you're saying, that would be wonderful. Heck, I would, put them on take the titles on them for a little bit and do what they might be doing, really short term, and and then just to show that the guys are right there with the hardcore NXT fans know that they're on the same, and then find that'd be a fun way to everybody else that watches wrestling. These two guys are just as good as the other person, as anybody on this roster, if not better.
Yeah. And maybe you could tell a story, and I promise we'll.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
But maybe you tell the story of kind of like what you just. He's not doing a whole lot. I'll tell you that. He's sitting in the sidelines and he's chomping at the bit to do something. And then when Gunther turns on Ilya, Ludwig says, "Hey, boss, what are you gonna do? Tag title. You still have the tag belt. Ilya's not your tag. You're gonna need somebody to step up. And I've been sitting here on the sideline. I'm ready to step up. I'm ready to fight for you." And Gunther says, "You know what, Ludwig? You're right. You have been sitting on the sidelines. You've been a good soldier, and you've been patient enough. You're right. You are going to be my new tag. Next title match they have, Ludwig is." Or maybe not even the next one.
That would be a great story, though.
Yeah.
And it's I've been ready. I guess you weren't, buddy.
Yeah, and it's maybe it's not even the next one.
That's why you're only the henchman.
Yeah, maybe not even the next one. Maybe just eventually Ludwig is the reason. Maybe once, twice, 3 times. It's oh man, if it wasn't for Gunther saving everything, he would have lost. And you tell that story, and then eventually he does lose it. Gunther just immediately just murders Kaiser, and then that's when Ilya comes back and saves Kaiser, and then he uses helps Kaiser, and now they're both fighting him, and it's a whole. I don't know what you do, but to that again, bold prediction. I hope it doesn't happen because I just love Ilya the way he is right now.
Right.
But
yeah,
just see them pair together, knowing and seeing those matches, and you're like, oh god, who's gonna beat these guys? No one. That's the point. So themselves. Yeah, they're gonna beat themselves. So there you go.
I mean, and that's just a tried and true good, tried and true easy. But I don't mean the bad way of you form a tag. That's kind of what we feel like they're doing with Bianca and Jade right now. Tried and true trope where these you're strong, you're helping elevate someone else, and again, just to get everybody on, seeing what those two guys can do together and how dominant they both are together. It's like, oh wow, what have we been missing?
Yeah. All right. Fire away, man.
Our bold predictions somewhat intersect.
Interesting. Okay, I'm down for it. Let's go.
My bold prediction, and I won't make this as long as the Bloodline story, but I have a couple.
Go for it.
World Heavyweight Championship change hands 5 times through the next year, roughly
until
through
Mania.
Through Mania.
5 times. Yeah, dude, that is. I could totally see it. I mean, there's anybody.
So I think. Man. So I think at Clash, I think we're gonna get Drew and Priest, but I think we're gonna see Drew lose, even though it's again. He just, it's his home turf again, but we're going to have him lose again, which, I don't know, as I'm thinking, I'm like, that's maybe not the best idea. But he loses that to Clash just because of Punk, because Punk keeps, on him. And that feud between them is epic. It's so good. It's been perfect while we're waiting for Punk and Rollins. But Drew finally gets the title back, I feel, at Money in the Bank, but it's a triple threat. Triple threat between him and Jay and Priest. Jay actually beats Punk in the qualifying match because Drew gets involved in that match and he doesn't want Punk in it, but he doesn't want either of them in it. But he's like, well, I'd rather have Jay than Punk, so he helps Jay win. Some of this is a little bit of a stretch, but anyway, Drew wins at Money in the Bank. Punk wins at Bash in Berlin. Punk holds on to it for a little bit. Then we finally get Punk and Rollins at Survivor Series. I'd love to even see between these two, as much as Bad Blood is on the mic between these two. I'd love to even see an Iron Man match, or Last Man Standing match, or an I Quit match, something like that. Or 2 out of 3 falls, or whatever, to where a good long match between you guys. Because we've been wanting this match ever since Punk came back in. We thought we were gonna get, and we thought and probably were gonna get at Mania until things changed. So I think Survivor Series is a big enough platform pull it off at. I think Rollins gets that there. So Rollins gets his second reign with the title, but it's a short-lived reign because Braun Breaker is finally going to see everybody done fighting for the title. Okay, I'm going to finally cash in my bank.
Yeah.
Breaker cashes in as Raw has its first episode on Netflix. Day 1 and everything. I think that'd be fun.
I think so. Yeah, I think that would be interesting.
Breaker holds it for a few months, and then we finally get Gunther, his crowning moment at Mania. Gunther wins 5th time. Changes for the 5th time at Mania, thanks.
So you got, just to make sure, so you've got Drew winning it back.
Yep.
Punk winning it from Drew.
Yep.
Rollins winning it from Punk.
Yep.
Breaker cashing in, beating Rollins,
Yep.
and then Gunther beating.
It's fine.
Yes. Yeah, that makes sense. I could definitely see it. I think the only one that I am a bit maybe not would be the Drew. I don't know if Drew. I really don't know. I hope he does, just because I love Drew, man.
Yeah,
I hope he. But I don't know if he's gonna.
In a way, I don't feel like he has to. In a sense, I feel like the storylines right now are really good. Between him and Priest, him and Punk will have a match, and I think you could do a match between those two with the title. You could maybe even reverse these where you put Breaker cashing, let's say Breaker does win the Money in the Bank where he cashes on Priest, but Breaker defends it, in a big fatal 4 or 5-way or something like that, and that's an easy way to put it on someone like Drew or Punk or someone, and then you get these one-offs again. It's I feel like you could interchange the order of these a little bit any way you wanted. But I feel like all those, that's all the main players right now, and inserting new Breaker. Rollins will get a shot eventually. And I was looking at it too. It's like I don't want to Rollins. You can't have Rollins hold it on longer, especially, and that's I think like Roman. Let's finish our business.
Sure.
So, but yeah, no, it's kind of going back to what I was saying earlier too. It's like I think that's one of the easiest titles you can hot shot a little bit over the next year and a half. But I think ultimately getting it on Gunther, I'd be shocked if Gunther didn't win the Rumble at this point. He's so close the last 2 years. It's like third time.
I think he's probably the
to win the. So that's where our bold predictions intersect with that Mania with Gunther. But I think it'll change hands a few times before it gets to him.
Hey, both of us having Gunther winning at Mania. I like both ways that we're going about it, but I'm just excited.
We're in a new era. We've been in a new era for a couple years. We're now in a new era that's not Bloodline at the top headline. It's a headline. It's a really good headline still, but I feel it's like Cody finally got his moment. We're developing all these stars on Raw, where there's more room to play with a lot more stars, and I feel that's kind of why we're seeing what we're seeing on SmackDown. I think but I think we'll still get some good guys elevated on SmackDown. Oh, yeah. A lot of good factions right now. Some factions have moved in the draft. Possibly a new faction maybe at some point on SmackDown now that DIY is over there. We didn't even touch on Wyatt Six, which I just feel like a lot of people kind of are in the know about that anyway. And I'm more of just like I'm just curious to see what happens, and I think it's gonna be really interesting. Probably really creepy.
I would,
which it might mean the creep level might not be might be my full comfort, but at the same time, like it's still like I'm still anticipating to see what happens. Rumor right now, is in the ring, possibly seeing him.
We'll see what happens, but that's gonna do it, folks. That was a lot of fun, as obviously we had hoped it would be. Hopefully, you guys had as much fun as we did. What did you guys think of everything we talked about today? What do you agree with? What do you disagree? And again, in the comment section below. Thank you all so very much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already.